right, thank you for joining us and thank you for your patience with our tech issues. Part of the tech issues is also my camera, so you won't be able to see me live and in action, and I apologize for that, but you'll be able to see some of my counterpoints. So thank you for choosing to join us for better understanding the functions of behavior. We're going to start our time by introducing ourselves as your facilitators. And I'm going to start with myself. If you look all the way over, I am in the tie-dye with my two girls. I have a 5-year-old and a 15-year-old, and I'm very happy to join you. I am a behavior coach as a member of the behavior and instructional support team. And happy Saturday, everyone.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Courtney Johnson, and I am a behavior coach and a member of the behavioral and instructional support team. You'll find me right there in the middle with my 9-year-old, and I am so happy you chose this session this morning.
Good morning. My name is Christy Pomeroy. I am also one of the district behavior coaches and member of the behavior instruction team. You'll find me on the left with my two daughters, and thank you for joining us.
We are going to go ahead and start and review some of our expectations and commitments to you guys. We want to make sure that we are fully present, participating in the chat box when appropriate. Although when we are participating in that chat box, we want to be mindful of sharing confidential and sensitive information because this is shared throughout the year and this is open to everyone. We want to make sure we choose a positive learning attitude. We want to try to have as much fun in learning as well as being open to learning some new ideas. As we look at the agenda for today, as basically what we're going to be getting into, we're going to be looking at what the ABCs of behavior are, exploring data collection, getting into exactly those functions of behavior, how reinforcement plays a role, and then we will look at applying our learning to kind of see what does it look like for us with functions of behavior.
Now that we've shared the purpose and goal for today's session, let's get into the content. We'll start with a form of data collection that allows us to determine the function or the why behavior is occurring. Prior to determining the function of the behavior, you have to take a look at the ABCs of behavior. The ABCs are the antecedents, or what happened prior to the behavior. Behavior, or the measurable action that is taking place by the individual. And the sequence, or the response following the behavior. Collecting ABC data will assist in determining the behavior patterns, will better help you prevent, teach, and reinforce. Now, think of it engaged in a negative behavior. Was there anything you feel you could have done during the antecedent stage to avoid a behavior, such as change the audience or the setting? Is there anything you could have done during the consequence stage to decrease the likelihood of the behavior reoccurring? This will be a guide for how we will begin to look at behaviors. When collecting data, 3 methods used by parents. The anecdotal data collection is story-based and is also based on the individual's personal account of an event. The frequency data collection requires that the data collector count and tally mark the number of times behavior occurs over a period of time. Frequency data can be collected for behaviors such as physical aggression, noncompliance, and cursing. The duration data method, image 2, documents time by which a behavior occurs. This method is best used during behaviors such as tantrums. Data collection such as these can be taken to your child's health or behavior care provider to determine an appropriate behavior plan. Now that we've learned about the ABCs of behavior, we will now dive into the functions of behavior. The acronym SEAT stands for sensory, attention, and tangibles. Together, these 4 terms represent each of the possible functions of a student behavior. Sensory. These behaviors provide access to sensory stimulation. It feels good to engage in the behavior. Escape. These behaviors remove an undesired situation or person. Attention. These behaviors provide a reaction from others. Tangible. These provide access to highly preferred activities. We determine seat, or the function of behavior, by collecting frequency or duration data and analyzing the data, discuss and understanding the why. Now we will watch a video that talks about how ABC data is used to determine the function of the behavior. And we have had some technical difficulties. We're going to do our best to help show it. We also can put the link in the chat for information.
We will now dive into learning more about each function along with giving examples. The first function we will cover is sensory. This behavior is referring to the stimulating sense or self-stimulating, where the behavior function gives the child some kind of internal sensation that pleases them or removes an internal sensation they don't like.
Okay, I'm going to pick up. Thank you. I think that there was a little bit of a delay on the app from the video, so hopefully you guys are able to hear this. A simple example of this for sensory is scratching. A child might scratch their skin due to bug bites or sunburn to relieve the feeling or itching. This will certainly vary depending on the child. One child might enjoy and feel sensory stimulation from fast sports, but another might rock back and forth to de-stimulate his or her senses. The second function is escape maintained behaviors. Behavior is often used to communicate the desire to escape or to avoid an activity. When a child engages in escape behavior, he or she is trying to get away from something or avoid it altogether. Maintained behavior occurs when a child has been asked to perform a non-preferred task. For example, in a home setting, a child might run away if they don't want to take a bath. If a child puts down his or her head on the desk when presented with an assignment, he might be attempting to escape the work. It's possible that escape behaviors are a result of lacking motivation for the performing task or that the task is too difficult. When trying to understand why a child might be engaging in escape maintained behaviors, it can be helpful to take a step back and easier task to help them slowly understand the work. The third function is social attention or attention seeking. The goal of an attention seeking behavior is to gain the attention of a nearby adult or another child. Attention seeking behaviors can occur when attention is low, when someone stops paying attention to the behavior, or when someone else is receiving the attention. For example, a child might whine in order to get attention from their parents. They may also engage in certain behaviors to get others to laugh with them or play with them, or they may just want people to look at them. They may not always be seeking positive attention. The fourth function of a behavior is seeking access to tangibles or activities. This is referring to the concept that some children engage in behavior so they can gain access to desired item or activity. This behavior is the opposite of escape, since the child is doing something in order to get what he or she wants. The trigger for this behavior can also be due to be told no, to wait for an item to be available, or when an item is taken away from your child. An example can be when a child might scream or cry at a store so the adult will buy them the toy they want. It also can be seen positively if the child is getting dressed or doing their chores quickly so they can go play. Now that we've learned more about the different functions of behaviors, we'd like to hear from you for this activity. When thinking about behaviors you have observed, share an example of a behavior that matches a function. For example, when homework is presented, your child might leave her work area and go to her room. The function is to escape the homework. As a reminder, the four functions are sensory, escape, attention, and tangibles. Please provide an example in the chat.
Okay, so we do not yet have any responses. We will go ahead and continue to move forward. Okay. So there is a delay on the app. If you are responding in the chat box, we're going to give it another second. Okay, next slide, please. We will now take a look at replacement behaviors. When changing behaviors, you must have a fair pair, which simply means it has to have the same purpose or function of the problem behavior. For example, if your child screams and responds to the screaming, then the purpose of the screaming is to gain the parent's attention. A replacement behavior would be to teach your child to place their hand on your shoulder to request your attention. The replacement behavior should require less effort for the child than the problem behavior. When teaching replacement behaviors, they should be practiced daily and immediate reinforcement should be given. Along with replacement behaviors, there are interventions that go along with the function of the behavior. Some interventions for behavior can be broken down into prevention strategies and teaching the skill. Proactive or prevention strategies should be put into place before the behavior occurs. When teaching any new behavior, the child should be in a calm state before learning the new skill. For sensory behaviors, a proactive strategy would be to provide a space in your child's environment that allows for frequent opportunities of movement. Another proactive strategy would be to supply socially acceptable items for your child to hold or manipulate. After the proactive strategies are in place, you can begin to teach your child how to request more breaks when he or she is allowed to engage in sensory related behaviors. When teaching how to request a break, the format of communication can be based on your child's current level of communication, such as gestures, words, or pictures. There should be a signal that is used to allow your child to know when the break will be available. It is also important to teach your child to engage in the sensory related behavior during certain times of the day. Moving into interventions for escape, when escape maintained behaviors are occurring, a preventative measure that can be put into place is to enrich the environment with meaningful activities for your child. Along with enrichment activities, the task can be broken down into shorter segments while providing breaks. Another way to increase task compliance is to prompt for shorter tasks that are easy or preferred, then gradually prompt to more difficult or non-preferred tasks. After each attempt at completing the task, praise should be given. A skill that should be taught is how to request a break, especially during difficult tasks. The learner can use various ways of requesting, including using words or visual break cards. If using a break card, it should be taught how to ensure the adult has seen the card, along with teaching the child to return to a task after a break has been completed. A lot of praise and reinforcement should be given for requesting a break and completing a task. We will now video on behavior momentum. This is a strategy that increases the chances of your child completing a task.
Today we're going to talk about behavioral momentum. This is one of my favorite positive behavioral supports to teach parents because you can use it in so many different circumstances and with children of any age and almost any ability level. The basic format of behavioral momentum is that you instruct the child to do a series of things that they're likely to do for things for which they don't need extra motivation. And then at the end of the series of instructions, you give them the instructions for the target behavior, thing that's difficult to motivate them to do. So here's some important things to remember. Number one, use this for existing skills. Only use this to target skills your child can already do. This is something that will help you motivate your child to do something, but you wouldn't use this to teach them a brand new skill. Two, pick easy instructions.
We want to pick very easy and hopefully even preferred instructions to lead up to the target behavior. 3, be quick. Most kids, particularly new learners and kiddos who become distracted easily, need a very fast series of easy instructions to maintain their attention. I'll tell you about an exception later on. 4, reinforce. With every successful response, give immediate praise and reinforcement. This cycle of response, reinforcement is what builds that momentum that we're trying to get to. First time I ever used this was with a 2.5-year-old. We had been working on one-step instructions and gross motor imitation at that point, and he could do those things really well. So that's what we used for the instructions when we did behavioral momentum with him. So I'm going to show you an example of what that would look like. I'm going to use my daughter, who's older and more verbal, but she's an all that I've got, so bear with me. Remember that the target behavior is something that your child would not want to do, but is able to do. So we're going to do a fine motor activity. I'm sticking a sticker. You ready? Okay. Touch your head. Yay! Yay! Here's your belly. You got it. You got it. Awesome. Yay, you. Great job, you. You got your tongue. You did it. Stick a sticker. Hard, good job. You did it. Nice. So proud of you. I want to say that if your child at this level, where one-step directions and gross motor imitation are mastered skills, really do it easily, you can use this to build momentum to just about any other behavior. The instructions you use to build the momentum can be related to the target behavior, but they don't have to be. Now let me give you some examples of ways you might use behavioral momentum in other circumstances. So say you're trying to expand the number of sentences followed by the first two. So blueberries, 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 blueberries. In the initial stages of learning sounds and sound imitation and new words, you can do a series of sounds or words that are really easy for your child, followed by a word or sound that is much effort. So, ah, ooh, cookie. Now, let's talk about how you might use this with older children and children who can sustain their attention for longer. So if your child is at this stage, your behavioral momentum instructions can be a little far apart, and they can be instructions to do things that take a little bit longer. For instance, if you have a kiddo who comes home from school with 3 worksheets to do for homework, and they're able to do all the worksheets, but one is more challenging than
So we apologize if that was very difficult to hear. This is a wonderful video. I'm going to summarize it and we'll also put the link in. Behavior momentum, what it does, it builds simple compliance based on the skill the child can already do. She gave some wonderful examples to apply at home. For example, if a child doesn't like eating a certain food, she gives the example of you can try with blueberries if that's a preferred food. Try blueberry, 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 broccoli. So you build simple compliance to that task. She also gives a great example of how you can do that for while a child is working on a preferred activity. She gives a great example of a kid who's working on Minecraft, and she shows them how to do that by simple compliance questions. She'll say, hey, move him to the top, throw the snowball. He's complying at that time, and then she transitions to, okay, it's time to log off. Again, these are just building simple skills based on what they can do. They have to have the skill set in place in order to get to the more difficult task, though. While you're doing that, you're reinforcing and praising along the way. Again, if you want to ever refer back to this as a great example, the video clip is in the chat.
Interventions for attention. An effective intervention for attention-seeking behaviors is to provide attention to the child throughout your time with him or her. The attention can be given every few minutes. An example of this would be coming into your child's room every 10 minutes and asking what they are playing and possibly giving praise for what they are doing. Example, nice job playing safely with your sibling. When teaching your son or daughter how to gain attention, teach various ways for them to gain your attention in multiple settings. If your child's mode of communication is words, you can teach your child to say, "Excuse me," when they would like your attention. Another strategy that can be taught is to have your child place their hand on your shoulder and then you provide the attention. Moving into interventions for assessing tangibles. When your child wants access to something, there are prevention measures that can be put into place to decrease the likelihood of your child becoming frustrated when they are told no or when they need to stop a preferred activity. One strategy would be to have the preferred tangibles out of sight and only have them out when your child is allowed to access them. It is also helpful to have a schedule in place so that your child knows when they can access the item or activity. When your child is engaged in the activity, you can use timers set along with reminders for how much I've left. If your child does request an item, but it is not the appropriate time for them to receive the item, you can practice using first then strategy. The first then strategy can be used to build compliance and practice waiting skills. When your child requests something, you simply state that they first must complete a task and then they can have access to the item or activity. How functions and behavior work. We've already reviewed that behavior occurs because of the function that it is serving the child. It is important to also understand that these behaviors serve to reinforce or maintain an outcome. Behavior can be understood in terms of both function and reinforcement. In general, behaviors serve two functions. A behavior is an attempt to get something or an attempt to get away from something. When a behavior works to get something for the child, it is called positive reinforcement. The opposite is also true if a behavior works to get the child away from something or have something be taken away. It is referred to as negative reinforcement. Now that we've discussed the ABCs and the functions of behavior, what's next? After recognizing the function of your child's behavior, you can determine whether or not your response to said behavior is having a negative or positive impact. Reinforcement is what takes place immediately after the behavior and can increase or decrease the odds that a behavior will occur again. There is a difference between reinforcement and bribery. Reinforcement is determined prior to a behavior, and bribery occurs while a behavior is occurring, i.e., a tantrum is occurring because a child wants access to an item. During the tantrum, they are given access in order to stop the behavior. An example of positive reinforcement is a child is told to clean the living room. He or she cleans the room, that is the behavior, and then they are allowed to play video games. That is the reinforcer. An example of negative reinforcement is your child is refusing to eat their vegetables for dinner while pouting. A parent responds by removing the food from their plate. While not considered a punishment as the child did not want it, the child may now understand that if he or she pouts at the dinner table, they will not have to eat what they do not want to. We will now take a look at a video about shaping. Shaping is a way to teach a new skill one step at a time, such as the example we will see in the video. It is important to note that shaping may require many trials and lots of patience in order to achieve the desired behavior.
This is Donna and her son Brad. Brad is an active boy diagnosed with ADHD and autism. Donna has a hard time taking Brad into the community. Whenever she tries to take him somewhere public, she fears for his safety. He just doesn't listen, and one day something bad might happen. Donna would love to be able to take Brad to eat at a restaurant, but he gets up and runs around the restaurant whenever she tries. She's not sure how to get him to sit long enough to order and eat a meal. She has tried taking him to the coffee shop and getting his favorite donut, but he doesn't make it long enough to order the donut. After Brad goes to bed one night, Donna decides to look for an intervention to help teach Brad how to eat in a restaurant. She has been learning about ABA and has identified that Brad runs around the restaurant to get her attention. It's pretty effective because she can't let him run around the restaurant, so she ends up chasing him. She reads about shaping. Shaping reinforces gradual approximations of the final goal. She thinks this might be just what she's looking for, since she's not sure she could take on a really involved intervention and still keep Brad safe. She begins by calling ahead to her favorite coffee shop. They let her order a donut and pay for it over the phone, so all she has to do is walk in and pick it up. She holds Brad's hand while they walk into the shop and grab the donut. Altogether, they were in the coffee shop a matter of 2 minutes. When they get to the car, Donna praises Brad's safe behavior and hands over the donut. Shaping Brad's behavior in the coffee shop might take some time, but Donna's already feeling optimistic. After many visits to the coffee shop, gradually Donna had Brad sitting at a table. Finally, one day, she decides she's ready to try the whole experience. They walk in, sit at a table, order from the waitress, and stay to eat their food. This is something she wasn't sure Brad was capable of doing. She's so glad she spent the time to use shaping to teach him how to eat in a restaurant.
So now that we have learned more about the function of behaviors, let's practice. For this activity, you will take a look at two behaviors and determine the possible function. Remember, seat, sensory, escape, attention, and tangibles. You will also look at a replacement behavior that can be modeled or taught. The first example is your child has been asked to clean their area. They do not comply. What is the function of this behavior and what replacement behavior can we teach? Again, that question is your child has been asked to clean their area. They do not comply. What is the function of that behavior and what replacement behavior can we teach? Okay. Mhm. So, yes, I see some responses. One response is escape. Do we have any other responses? So, yes, Miss Jenny, the answer is escape or avoidance. The replacement behavior that we can teach is to request a break or ask for help appropriately. Our next example is a child is engaged in repetitive touching. What is the function of that behavior and what replacement behaviors can we teach? Again, the question is a child is engaged in repetitive touching. What is the function of the behavior and what replacement behaviors can we teach? Mhm. Okay. So, yes, I do see some responses that are just populating for our first question, which was about escape and avoidance. Yes, Carrie, if you do this, then this. So, those if and then, using those if and then statements. I do agree, Jenny. Replacement would be breaking down the area into smaller tasks and praising after each compliance. So, now we're just looking for that second response. Okay, so good one. I see that we have the function could possibly be attention. The replacement behavior could be to use your words if you would like attention. Okay, so that is that repetitive touching. So for this one, this was more along the lines of that sensory that we often see in our students with autism. So the sensory would be the answer for this one in particular, but the replacement behavior, so what they are touching, Miss Jenny, is they are touching objects. Okay, so the replacement behavior could be to teach the child to request activities that involve rubbing or touching items. If a child is unable to make a verbal request, incorporate daily activities using sensory bowls. So those sensory bowls can include items such as kinetic sand, dried beans or peas, stress balls, or cotton balls. So it is just that they want to work on that sensory. And so we would provide them with things such as, again, those sensory bowls and just give time during the day for those kiddos to interact with objects so that they can use that sensory or that touch. Okay. So thank you all so much for participating. If we could transition over. So let's summarize. Every behavior serves a purpose. The four functions of behaviors are sensory, escape, attention, and access to tangibles. Effective replacement behaviors must meet the same function. When we reinforce, we want to reinforce, remember that reinforcing the behaviors that you pay attention to will be the behaviors that you will see. So if we pay attention to certain behaviors and we give a response, those may be the behaviors that we end up seeing. So now we're going to transition our question and answer session. You can use the chat box if you have any questions for the team, and we will respond. Thank you all so much again for joining our session on the functions of behavior.